Welcome again to the old principal. 我就是老校长. And we have another English instructional program for you today. Today's lesson is number 295, and it's all about preparing to go overseas. Of course, this is a picture of an American passport cover, of course. Okay, so, and this is a little book about smart packing for the modern traveler. In other words, 怎么样收拾好自己的行李 as you planned on going overseas or going on any trip. Now, let's take a couple minutes and listen to the whole story as Connie shares it to us, and then we'll be right back to see what today's lesson will bring us.
Story 295, Preparing to Go Overseas. Deciding to be an overseas teacher is one thing. It's quite another to make the suitable preparations. The first things we needed were passports, and the passport agency wanted our birth certificates. I knew I was born, but now I had to prove it. The only way was to secure copies of our birth certificates from the hospitals where we were born. The process seemed awfully slow. We planned to study the Chinese language for 2 years and then begin teaching in Chinese schools. We had a 6-year contract, although they would allow us to take a vacation for 3 months halfway through the 6-year period. So we needed to pack 3 years' worth of clothes and personal belongings. We had never lived in the subtropics and had no idea about the weather and what kind of things to take. The letters flew back and forth telling us what to expect and giving suggestions about things to take and what not to take. In those days, not many American items were available in Taiwan. Our clothing was a big problem. For instance, I have big feet, size 13 in America and size 47 in China. Either I take 3 years' worth of shoes or plan to spend some of my time going barefoot. And another problem was our little son. He was 1 year old when we went. He was growing very fast. We had to anticipate his growth rate and then buy clothing suitable for the next 3 years. Furniture was provided by the organization, but we had to supply our own clothes washer and dryer and air conditioners. Finally, we had all of our preparations complete, and a large truck carried everything away except for our suitcases. We still had 4 more weeks until our own departure date, but that time was spent in saying goodbye to our parents and families.
Welcome back. Now, deciding to be an overseas teacher 在国外做老师 is one thing. It is quite another thing to make the suitable preparations. It is quite another, you could add thing or not, it's okay. So how would you translate it is quite another? 是另外一回事, okay? It is quite another to make suitable preparations. 很合适的, 很适当的, 恰当的准备, okay? Suitable preparations. Okay, preparations in this case would be 准备. Going on. First, the first things we needed were passports. And the passport agency wanted our birth certificates. I knew I was born, but now I had to prove it. This is interesting. When you go traveling overseas, 到国外 overseas 到国外, you've got to have a passport. Now, do you remember the first time that you got a passport? Maybe you have never gotten a passport. But a passport, 护照, a passport, there's a special agency, 一个机构, so a special agency that takes care of passport issues, renewing them or applying for new ones. And they wanted a birth certificate. They wanted a birth certificate. Okay, a birth certificate? A birth certificate? What is a birth certificate? Of course, it's a 出生证. But, and this is the funny thing, I knew that I was born. 我知道我已经出生了. Of course, everybody knows that you've been born. This is not, this is obvious. But now I had to prove it. 现在要证明. Okay, going on. The only way to secure was to secure copies of our birth certificates from the hospitals where we were born. So I had to write a letter to the hospitals. I had to write to my hospital, and also my wife had to write to the hospital where she was born. Okay? And we had to get birth certificates. Now, after a while, year after year after year, many babies are born in some hospitals. So they have lots of records. It just seemed to me like the process seemed awfully slow. 我感觉这个过程很缓慢, awfully slow. Things were just going so slow, and I wanted them to go fast. But some things just don't go fast. Have you noticed that? Going on. We plan to study the Chinese language for 2 years and then begin to teach in Chinese schools. Now, we were very lucky. I say lucky because many people, when they go overseas, they don't have an opportunity to study the language, or they don't have very much time to study. But we were lucky because our organization gave us 2 years to study Chinese. So I had 2 years to study Chinese, and then, 然后, to begin teaching in Chinese schools. Of course, I'm not teaching Chinese. I am teaching in 中国人的学校. It's not a foreign school, it's a Chinese school. 不是外国人的一个学校. So everybody uses English. So you ask, well, what did you teach? Well, generally, I taught English. But eventually, 这个慢慢的改为 I started to change into administration 行政 so that's the reason why I became eventually 这个老校长 I became a high school principal. Going on, we had a 6-year contract. So my contract was 6 years. That's good. 6 years. Although they would allow us to take a vacation of 3 months halfway through the 6-year period. You understand how that goes? You have a 6-year period. Halfway through the 6-year period, we, that's my whole family, my wife and I, and our little boy, could take a vacation. So this was, actually it was a pretty good deal. You'll be interested to note that nowadays, 现代, because life is so busy that people take vacations every year. I mean, they return back home every year. So it's quite different. Even though I was able to take vacations every year, 每一年都有年假, but only one time in the 6-year period, right in the middle, 在当中, 中间, I was able to go back to my home country, 本国. Going on, we needed to pack 3 years worth of clothes and personal belongings. So we needed to pack. 我们要装, okay, 准备. Maybe 准备 is even better. Prepare 3 years worth of 3年的, okay, worth of, you cannot translate, it just means 3 years of clothes and personal belongings, 个人用品, okay, 个人用品. You just had to plan ahead. Going on, we had never lived in the subtropics. 亚热带, subtropics. It's not 热带, it's halfway between the tropics and the more milder northern climates. So we call it subtropics, 亚热带. And we had no idea about the weather and what kind of things to take. Now, nowadays, there's no problem. If you want to, 你就上网 and you could know. But we're talking about 1970. We're talking about 40 plus, 40多年以前, 40 years ago. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have the information. We could only write letters. I mean, times were different. 这个时代完全不一样啊, okay? So we had no idea about the weather. Of course, some people helped us. They told us, well, you can expect this, and so on. But it was very hard. Going on. So we didn't know what to take. The letters flew back and forth. So the letters. But even letters. Nowadays we use email and they can receive it. But in those days, letters going back and forth, back and forth. They said, okay, 会有什么 expect, 会有什么东西啊? And it gives us suggestions about things to take and what not to take. Today, my wife and I laugh at the things we took. The first time we went, 真的可笑, very laughable, the things that we took and the things that we didn't take and we wish that we could take. Nowadays, 现代完全不一样. But again, we are talking about 40 years ago. Going on. In those days, not many American items were available in time. Now, we were going to Taiwan, see. So, and there weren't very many American items available there in Taiwan. So, when we went there, it was a little bit difficult for us. And the reason why it was difficult for us, I will explain going on. Either I take 3 years, our clothing was a big problem. Our clothing was a big problem because I'm bigger than most Chinese. For instance, I have big feet. 我的脚好大. Size 13 in America, size 13, or over here in China, in this area, 47号, okay? Big feet. Hard to find shoes that big. So, going on, either I take 3 years worth of shoes, 3年的鞋子. Okay, here's this worth of, you could just take the worth out and say, either I take 3 years of shoes, worth of shoes, meaning that I'd have to take 3 years of shoes, plan ahead, or plan to spend some time going barefoot. Have you ever gone barefoot? When you go to Haitan, when you go to the beach, you go barefoot. 打赤脚. But this is not the beach. You cannot go barefoot to work. I had to think ahead about what to take. Going on. And another problem was our little son. Okay, we had a little son. 我们的小孩, 小孩子, he was, when we got to Taiwan, he was 1 year old. So, we needed to figure out, he was 1 year old, see, he was growing very fast. Today, he is taller than me. But he was already, as a baby, he was growing fast. He was much bigger than the little Chinese babies. So, he was growing, 他长得好快. Going on. We had to anticipate his growth rate and then buy clothing enough for 3 years. Okay, let's take a look at that. We had to anticipate. This is a good word. To anticipate is 预计. Sometimes 预估. To anticipate. So we had to anticipate his growth rate. 他生长率. Okay, his growth rate. And we say, well, 3 years, we're going to have so many clothes. And then we would have to buy clothing enough for 3 years. We would have to buy 3 years of clothing. Now, in a sense, you know, as I think about this, I think, wow, this is something. I would just say buy local clothes. But in those days, I couldn't think that way. I had to buy American things. Nowadays, 买当地的就好了, okay? But anyway, life has changed considerably since then. Okay, going on. Furniture was provided by the organization. Okay, 机构 provided the furniture, 家具. Well, that was good. And for many, many, many years, I used these furniture. It was incredible. All this furniture that they gave us. Actually, in Taiwan, the furniture was actually made in Taiwan. It was made there. In fact, where we lived, where I was studying Chinese, there was a furniture factory only 2 or 3 blocks, 离我们家2、3条街, very close. So furniture was no problem. The organization, 机构, provided this for us. But we had to supply our own clothes, obviously. Clothing, 衣服, 都是个人的事情. We also had to supply a washer and a dryer and air conditioners. Now this is interesting. Okay, a washer is 洗衣机. Okay, and a dryer, 烘干机. Okay, now sometimes if you see these words, you will discover that they say clothes washer or a washing machine, or you say a clothes dryer. So a washing machine, a clothes dryer, and air conditioners. Air conditioners. For some reason, in the very early days, there were not very many air conditioners. And I don't know why, foreign air conditioners seemed to be better. So we had to buy air conditioners. And we brought an air conditioner all the way from the United States all the way to Taiwan. Nowadays, no way. Nowadays, 现代, you buy everything local. We don't bring anything here. Sometimes I bring clothes, some clothes, but that's all. Everything else I buy local, 是买当地的. Okay, going on. Finally, we had all our preparations complete. That means everything was done. We had prepared for everything. And a large truck carried everything away except for our suitcases. A big truck came to our school. Remember, I was teaching at a school. I lived on the school property, 校园内. I lived there on the school property. So this big truck came and it took all of our stuff and sent it to, I think in those days, 三藩市 or 加州 somewhere in California, okay? So this big truck came, took everything away, 把我们所有的东西带走，除了 our suitcases 以外, everything was gone. So all we had now is suitcases going on. We still had 4 more weeks until our own departure date. But that time was spent in saying goodbye to our parents and families. So now that the packing is finished, we still have 4 more weeks. In those 4 weeks, we traveled around to visit our parents and to say goodbye to our parents. 向我们的父母亲、家长、亲戚等等道别. Okay, say goodbye. After that, we got on a big airplane and we flew overseas. Interestingly enough, we have, since 1970 until now, we have lived most of our time, all except for 4 years in the middle, we have lived all of our time overseas. And always in areas that speak some kind of Chinese language. So, that's the preparations for going overseas. There will be more interesting things coming up. But for now, you could write to me an email. What do you think? Our email address, 电邮的teacher, theoldprinciple@gmail.com. And we have a website. 我们的网站是 www.theoldprinciple.org. Hey, it's been great to be with you. I hope you will join us next time also. Bye-bye.